Steve Caswell was a man of vision and of action, a true example of servant leadership. A man who never doubted that any project set before him, no matter how large or small, could be completed. Whether playing football at Hammond School, cheering on his Gamecocks, working at his church or other nonprofit organizations, hitting the golf course, meeting with business associates, or serving at Ben Lippen School, those who knew him often remember him for his unwavering adage of, "Absolutely, without a doubt." We'll never know just how many lives Steve touched while he was here on Earth, but one thing is certain, his life continues to inspire many since his premature death in October 2008.
He embraced people, he embraced the circumstances that he might find himself in. He was very positive. He was not overly analytical. He was a little impulsive at times in a good way and very decisive. He could make a decision and go with it, and he was all in. I would have to say that my most lasting memories of Steve are in that way. Even as a kid, even from going from a 4th or 5th grader to a college student, I saw those traits in him and I appreciated them and I admired them and I miss them. Think about him a lot.
After marrying Melanie, his college sweetheart, their passion to share the love of Christ with others led Steve to realize that he was called to financially enable missionaries to take the gospel around the world. The rest of his life would be marked by selflessness, generosity, faith, and service. Steve's friends knew him as the first to show up in times of need, equipped with all the right resources. He headed up relief efforts for Hurricanes Hugo and Katrina, and offered internships to local high school students through Central Midlands Career Partnership. He served on the board of directors of Kingdom Building Ministries, based in Denver. He volunteered time, energy, and money to various causes throughout both the community and the United States.
Right after Hugo happened, when Columbia was a mess, Steve called me and said, "We got to go over to Sumter. It's just a disaster over there and these people can't get out of their houses and we got to go over there and spend the day." And I said, "Okay, what do you want?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to call some people and tell them that you're going to be going." I said, "Okay, whatever." I said, "I've got an axe." And he said, "It doesn't make any difference. I just want you to come, bring your axe." He also was a guy who really did a lot of things to support people financially. I mean, there were people who were in the ministry. I remember a fellow that was a minister in our church who was just getting started out of seminary, and how Steve supported him financially and how he got others to support him, really raised support for him. I saw him do that a time or two, probably for people from our church who went on mission trips during the summer. There were lots of people that I know of that he did favors for. They would have problems with their air conditioner or their car or something like that. And Steve would just kind of in a quiet way take care of things. And I just saw amazing spiritual strength in his life, even at the end of his life.
No matter the project, Steve's visions were always ultimately focused on serving God. Steve once said, "There are two things that will last forever: people and the Word of God. Those are the things we must invest our lives in." Steve's passion for service led him and Melanie to send their 5 daughters to Ben Lippen School, a place where they could blend challenging academics and Christian service. From coaching to encouraging students, from pulling homecoming floats to fixing toilets, Steve was always ready to help.
When Steve and I worked closely together, I was in a development role, and so I got to see behind the scenes, if you will, some of the ways in which he touched others, oftentimes in an anonymous way, whether it was providing tuition dollars for a family that could not otherwise afford a Ben Lippen education, to providing some heating and cooling services through his company. It could be something as simple as providing trucks or a lift that we might need to put up lights or to bring a homecoming float around the school. There were so many different ways that Steve had his fingerprints all over the school that oftentimes people didn't recognize that how it happened. It just happened, and of course because of my work I knew that it was because of Steve Caswell. One story that I would share that typified Steve was actually a meeting that he didn't have with me, but we had with our elementary principal at the time. And he was just so overwhelmed by what he was seeing in his own 5 girls' lives that he went to this individual and said, I want to give back. I want to help others have the opportunity to experience what my girls are experiencing. And that day he wrote a check, and he didn't put a dollar amount in it, and he just slid it across the table and just said, you fill in the amount, you know what the needs are of this school, and you understand that my heart is that we have the ability to, through Ben Lippen, to touch others' lives. So he gave us that blank check that day. Pretty amazing.
Steve was involved in countless projects at Ben Lippen over the years, and he never stopped looking for the opportunity to do more. His last known vision for Ben Lippen is yet to become reality, an athletic facility that began to take form in his mind as he first sketched it on a napkin. Steve envisioned a place where students who were mastering academics and growing in their faith to also prepare their bodies to reflect all God created them to be.
Shortly after we came to Ben Lippen, football started right away, and my son's big into the football, and so we're on the football field. They're having a game, and I turned around, and there was Steve. I had no idea Steve was at Ben Lippen with his family. I just turned around, there's Steve walking along the track around the football field. And he says, hey, I kept hearing Grunsky over the loudspeaker, Grunsky, Grunsky. He said, I knew it had to be you. And April and I were there together, and there was Steve. So we started talking, and we were glad to know that he was there. And then Steve looked at me, and he says, it's really great that you're here. He says, God has put you here. There's lots to do at Ben Lippen, and I need your help. Well, it wasn't but a few days, week or so, I get a call from Steve, and Steve says, hey, I'm thinking about this weight room that we ought to put in the school. He says, I think it ought to go behind the gym. You think you can help me out with that? And I said, sure, I'll be happy to do that. Well, then he came along and said, how about meet me over there? Took my tape measure, and we started stretching the tapes out and looking at the dimensions of what Steve had in mind. And he was asking me, did I know of an architect that we could get with that might help with the layout and, you know, the different professional services you'd need. Could I help him get those things lined up? My lasting impression of Steve Caswell is very simple. I've never known anyone that was more certain in their relationship with Christ. And it's just as simple as that.
The day Steve approached headmaster Brian Modarelli about the athletic center with a sense of urgency, Brian had no idea that just days earlier, Steve had been diagnosed with stage 4 non-smoker's lung cancer. At a time when most people would be thinking of themselves, Steve was attempting to fulfill his motto of absolutely, without a doubt, one last time.
Yeah, absolutely was one of Steve's favorite words. And it could be about, something that didn't really matter that much. Absolutely, absolutely. It was just there you'd go.
I think that this would be an absolutely perfect and fitting legacy for him, because I know how involved he was with youth sports and with education and with his children and with his community. And so it seems like a terrific combination or a project that involves all those things.
I think Steve would take the greatest pleasure in knowing that people were involved in this project for the long-term objective of having an impact on people. The building, the facility, is just another means to help us accomplish that larger objective.
It's time to honor Steve Caswell, a man of vision, a man of action, a man of generosity and great integrity. Won't you join us in making his last vision a reality? We hope you will respond as Steve would. Absolutely, without a doubt.